We'll leave them behind if we have to.
See, that's what happened with John and I.
Let's just go with it. Let's just go.
Well, you're
Live on YouTube?
YouTube.
Well, that's the one that said it wouldn't publish.
Isn't that the driving force, is YouTube? Can you stop it and start over? It's such a tight. But you have to keep it running the whole time.
Oh wow, just a tiny pump.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're live on YouTube again. I can't figure it out.
Okay, welcome everybody. It's another Friday here in January, snowing in Des Moines, and we're here for our regular Friday Live. Thought we'd start here in the photo studio and show the finished product of the Turntable console, which is, I believe, secretly part of Dylan's master plan of creating mid-century modern furniture and having it dominate our offices here. So, Dylan, you want to walk us through this?
Sure. So last time that we looked at this, I'm more than certain it wasn't finished in many regards. So a couple of things I think that came together since the last time we saw you, other than a completed piece where we were working on the speaker covers for this. So a large part of that was attempting to break this down into several parts and kind of get it to where it is. So I guess the abbreviated version of this is not so abbreviated, but if you can envision this panel, which is 9.5 by 19.5 long, was just a solid piece to begin with. We cut our rabbets on the back side of there. You can't really see now, but there's a piece on the back that it ends up adhering all of these individual slats together to create one piece. So with that being said, we had the original full panel, and then this piece got attached to a sub base that had a pivot point on it, and we created a jig for our router to cut this contour or this spheroid shape into our speaker grill cover here. So once we had this all dished out, lightly sand, we went over to the table saw and then cut our individual slats here, which are evenly spaced across. The middle one is a little bit larger, again, just to kind of create a little bit more of a radiating visual pattern. And again, like I said, they're all connected on the backside by just a strip of wood and a dado cut on the backside there. The way that these are adhered on the backside, there's tiny little rare earth magnets. There's 4 3/8" magnets that attach it. So this area is removable. So the way we kind of set it up is if you have pre-existing shelf speakers, you're able to use those. You just put them in these cavities and then cover them with the speaker covers. Otherwise, the other option or route to go is if you want to construct your own, basically you'd have to cut a groove or find a way to attach a back panel in here. You drill your 2 individual holes if you're doing two-way, 3 holes if you're doing a 3-way speaker. So again, this is set up for pre-existing shelf speakers. They fit in the cavity. Otherwise, they're set up for custom ones as well. Another thing that we worked on were adhering the hinges. So this is the vinyl bin storage. Kind of drops down like some of the drop front hamper lifts that you see that people have in their homes. The hinges we went with, these are a German hinge. They're Hefla hinges. You can tighten the action on them, and there's 3 different pivoting angles. So depending on where you set them up on your either your door or your case, you can adjust the opening capacity of these. This one I didn't want to come down to a full 90. There is a 110 degree option. This is probably closer to like a 70, 75. I didn't want the vinyls to come out, but just enough that you have access to them. You can read your titles. And then up top here, we just did one, just because there isn't as much weight that's going to be imposed on this hinge. So we just have one on the left, and then this is the cavity for your vinyl player. Remove the dust cover. Again, just having one on one side, you have a little better access to your arm. And this one I did to 90, again, just to have more access to the place, or to have more access to get at the vinyl player. I know there was a question brought up a couple weeks ago about isolation feet. Depending on whether you have an older vinyl player, we talked about some of the newer ones and the more contemporary or modern ones. The They're a little bit lower profile, so that they'll allow for a little more room in there. If you wanted to, you could do a sub bottom in here and put isolation feet underneath if you do have a lower profile. Mine have isolation feet built into my older Onkyo one. Another feature too is we put stabilizer feet on the bottoms of our feet, so again, just another added line of security there to prevent from any sort of vibration and prevent your vinyl from skipping. So overall, I'm super happy with the way it turned out. Again, it is kind of in that mid-century, but again, there's also modern components of it too. You know, I chose to do just, you know, kind of a traditional rectangular shape for the stability of it. There's a lot of asymmetry going on, but just the way that the base is in relation to the case. The middle isn't quite divided down the center. You have a little bit of an offset between the vinyl bin storage and the vinyl player, but again, all together, I'm happy with the way it turned out. As you can see, it's paired with the lamp we did previously, and brought a couple band posters in from home. So you'll have to wait and see how it's actually staged in the magazine. But again, you've kind of got the full scope and inside look at it now. So I've got one other thing I was going to talk about. If we want to step back inside the studio, we're kind of looking towards upcoming projects. We've got 249 coming up. However, I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead to 250, which is going to be, I think, the August issue. We're going to do another workbench. We're going to do a Christensen style workbench, which are 20th century workbenches that were designed for basically for a teaching aid. So a lot of them you'll find, the older ones you'll find in old schoolhouses as a teaching mechanism. So really rudimentary in design, very utilitarian, straightforward design, but instead of using mechanical hardware, we wanted to go with wooden hardware. So I ordered these oversized threaded vice screws from Lake Erie, which I'm super excited to use. They're just absolutely beautifully done. You can tell that they use like a rotary function on CNC machine, solid piece of hard maple. Who knows what grit sandpaper they go to, but it's quite polished and nice and goes really well into the headstock of it, which is right here. So they do another threaded block for the screw to go into. It came with a couple antique brass garters. We've got some other plans for ours in terms of kind of customizing ours a little bit for kind of the anniversary project. But again, I just wanted to show these off. They're, again, like I said, they're just a very well machined and manufactured wooden screw, and I'm really looking forward to using them. So that's kind of what I have going on. You know, there's a couple other projects that are in the works that once they move a little farther along next week or give approval on some more design issues worked out, we'll have a little bit more to show and more to talk about, so stay tuned next week. I know Phil has a couple things he wants to talk about, so we'll direct the attention over to him.
And then we'll come back if you wouldn't mind getting your cart that Steve's working on.
Absolutely.
All right, so to continue on with the theme of sneak peeks for this next issue, one of the projects, the one that I'm writing, designed by Chris, who's not here today. We have quite a number of people who are under the weather, so it's a lot of hand sanitizers and masks around here, it seems like. So we have this cutting board, which is really a carving board for big difference here, just having the juice groove for collecting the liquids from chopping up your fruits and vegetables and roasts and things like that. So we went with what looks like a tree of life motif here. And creating it was pretty cool because we started off with the overall blank, and then we're using a series of templates. So we have this kind of master guide that goes around, and then we'll use one template with that centered in the opening to create our main channel, which is the deepest one. And then from there, we're going to step up using a second template that gets located and attached to create the trunk of our tree, which is slightly shallower than the main outer channel. And then finally, we're going to use a third template that will be used to create the branches, again, slightly shallower. So what we've done is created a drain board effect where juices that are released from the food on the surface will channel down into the main groove and then help keep your kitchen a little cleaner. So from there, you'll notice there's a bunch of leaves on there, and that's something, if you're interested in carving, you can totally do with probably a V tool or a veining tool of some sort. But since this is hard maple, we wanted to provide another option. So Chris, our resident wizard, came up with this jig that works with a small palm router, though you could size it for any size router, and a 120 degree V-bit in there. And it's all on a plexiglass base, so you can just line up the jig wherever you want it to, and then you basically sweep the bit and the router through the cut, and that creates each one of the leaves as it goes around around the branches of the tree. So I thought it was kind of a cool technique, and can't wait to show it both in the magazine and upcoming on our Woodworking Essentials video edition project that we have going on. The other thing is more of a personal project to me, and I don't know if you've seen this on our YouTube channel. We partnered with Rod Reyes out of My Garage Woodshop, right? Mm-hmm. And he built Chris's large floor standing edge sander, and it's super cool. So if you haven't seen those videos, you'll want to check them out because it's a fun project. So anyway, I had in my shop an old Shop Notes edge sander that runs off of a drill press. So I use that in my shop quite often. It was made mostly out of plywood, but inspired by Rod's paint job on his sander, I did a little paint work on mine here too, with kind of a dark blue paint, and put some lacquer over the top of it just to give it a little style. Because if you're going to spend time in your shop, you might as well have fun, cool looking tools too. So I think we're going to go around the corner here and show you another project that Dylan was the designer on and Steve's been working on building.
That way?
Yeah, pick a direction.
All right, so sorry I didn't have enough time for a wardrobe change in between. This other project we have coming up for 249 is one of a couple. This is a workbench companion that I designed. The kind of initial inspiration behind this project, other than the idea of doing another shop-inspired project, was I've been looking through some old shaker books that are, again, strictly dedicated to shaker furniture. So this particular piece is kind of modeled after one of the shaker dry sinks, kind of introducing fine furniture to the workshop. So not everything has to look super utilitarian. Again, a lot of these inspirations are coming from finer pieces of furniture. So some of the motifs and design of it certainly derive from that early shaker style. However, there's some upgrades to kind of make it a little bit more conducive to the shop. So you'll notice on the bottom we've got a couple of caster brackets and of course 4 locking casters for the shop. Those are turned in right now. They can also be turned out to provide a little bit more of a footprint for the cabinet. You'll notice there's a few drawers here, a larger top drawer, a couple smaller ones that are they're the same size, and then down here to the right there'll just be a door, so just an empty cavity in there for glues or any small handheld power tools. A lot of times I know in my shop, in my little storage unit on my bench, I just keep my palm router and a bunch of glue and some saran wrap down there, the stuff that's just easy access. So some of the things that aren't complete yet, close, I included a little Doug fir work surface that slides out here. There's just a couple of pieces scabbed on the inside to keep that from tipping, since the drawer front is 1 inch and this is only 3/4, but you got the nice vertical grain Doug fir there that just slides back in. And then the top, if you kind of look at the image, is a 2.5 inch side grain laminated vertical grain Doug fir top that's got some bench dog holes in there. So I've designed a couple accessories that mount to a vise, so you can put it on the top and use a utility vise. If you need to do some clamping with some of the threaded bench dogs, you have that opportunity too. So, and this will all end up getting milk painted. I've got some big mushroom shaker knobs that go on there. It looks like Steve's been making some pretty good progress on it. So I suspect about this time next week, realistically, it'll probably be done. So. Then we've got a couple other projects again that I mentioned that will be a little bit farther along next week, and we can mention those and talk about some of the features that go along with each one. So appreciate you guys stopping in. I don't know if Phil has any more info. Seacrest out us.
Just wanted to let you know again about our upcoming Woodsmith Live online seminar. The next one is February 20th at 11 o'clock. I'll be leading that one, and we're going to be talking about custom finishes. We've been doing a lot more around here other than your standard spray lacquer or wipe-on polyurethane. So we wanted to show some of the more decorative finishes that we've been able to work on here and how to get those and make those look really great in your own shop. So if you're interested in finishing and adding something a little bit more to your finishing routine, you want to sign up for that. Also, if you check out woodsmithshop.com/seminars, you'll see the full schedule for the rest of the year. There's also an annual pass package that lets you get pre-registered for all of the seminars. That way, even if you miss them live, you can always tune in again at another time. So you want to stick around for that, check that out as well. So other than that, everybody have a great weekend, and we look forward to hearing from you in the comments on the site. Thanks, everybody.